It started with just a few seconds on the big screen at a Coldplay concert. Two executives caught on the kiss cam, one with his arms wrapped around the other, both scrambling to hide as the crowd roared. The moment was awkward, even funny, especially when Chris Martin himself joked about an affair. But what looked like a lighthearted clip quickly spiraled into a viral scandal that would cost two people their careers, drag their families into the tabloids, and spark a storm of public shaming that still hasn't let up. On July 16th, inside Gillette Stadium, the crowd was buzzing for Coldplay when the cameras panned across the audience. Suddenly, the giant screen landed on two executives, Andy Byron, the CEO of Astronomer, and Kristin Cabot, his company's chief people officer. Byron had his arm wrapped tightly around her, but the second they realized they were being broadcast, panic set in. Kristin quickly covered her face, Byron tried to duck out a few, and the crowd instantly picked up on the strange reaction. Then came the kicker. Chris Martin, standing on stage, spotted the moment and couldn't resist teasing. "Oh, look at these two," he said, before adding with a grin, either they're having an affair or they're just very shy. The joke sent the stadium into laughter, but it also sent the clip rocketing across the internet. Within hours, the kiss cam video turned into a viral storm. Memes, headlines, and endless speculation erupted online, turning what should have been a fun concert moment into the start of a scandal that neither of them saw coming. What happened next was brutal. Within days of that clip going viral, both Andy Byron and Kristin Cabot were forced out of Astronomer. The company released a sharp statement saying its leaders are expected to set the standard in both conduct and accountability, and that standard had not been met. In other words, one awkward hug and a few seconds on screen were enough to end two powerful careers. But the fallout wasn't just professional. Headlines painted Kristin as a homewrecker, while Andy's reputation as a respected CEO evaporated almost overnight. The image of them laughing at a concert was replaced with the narrative of betrayal and scandal. Paparazzi began showing up. Their names were splashed across tabloids worldwide. What should have been a private matter turned into a very public takedown. And the strangest part? Neither of them had said a word. The silence only fueled speculation, making the internet believe there had to be more to the story. After weeks of silence, a source close to Kristin Cabot finally broke the tension, and their version of events shocked everyone who had already judged the situation. Speaking to People, the insider insisted there was no affair. According to them, Kristin had already separated from her husband before that concert, and just a few weeks later, she officially filed for divorce. The insider admitted the hug was inappropriate, but made it clear that the viral clip had been blown completely out of proportion. What the internet saw as scandal, they described as nothing more than two colleagues and friends caught in the wrong moment. Kristin wasn't destroying a marriage, they claimed. She was already moving on from her own. Still, the damage had been done. The world had decided on a narrative long before the truth came out, and the label of homewrecker was sticking to her no matter what anyone said. But that was only the beginning of how far this story would spiral. The fallout didn't just hit Kristin and Andy, it ripped through their families. Kristin's husband, Andrew Cabot, the CEO of a rum company, was at the very same Coldplay concert that night as well, and in a twist most people didn't know, he was reportedly there on a date of his own. Both Kristin and Andrew had already been living apart, each with children from previous marriages, but the kiss cam moment still put their entire family under a harsh public spotlight. Suddenly, private lives became tabloid fodder. The kids, who had nothing to do with any of this, were forced to watch their parents' faces fill headlines and social media feeds. For Andy Byron, the pressure extended to his own marriage, with his wife Megan also dragged unwillingly into the narrative. What began as a viral joke quickly turned into something deeply personal. The families weren't laughing. They were blindsided, humiliated, and left to deal with a firestorm they never asked for. But as bad as that was, what came next was even darker. Once the story exploded, the internet's obsession turned cruel. Kristin Cabot couldn't even run normal errands without being mocked. People pointed, laughed, and snapped photos as if her private life was public entertainment. According to a source, it went far beyond gossip. In the first 3 days after the clip spread, Kristin received nearly 900 death threats on her phone. The harassment was relentless. Paparazzi waited outside her car while she picked up her son from work. Strangers shouted insults in public. What started as a viral meme had escalated into a wave of bullying that made it nearly impossible for her to leave the house. And the internet only piled on. comment sections filled with jokes, memes, and cruel nicknames, with people acting as if public shaming was fair punishment for one awkward mistake. It wasn't just career fallout anymore. It was full-blown character assassination. But the damage didn't stop there. Losing her job was another devastating blow that left her reeling. Just weeks before the scandal, Kristin Cabot held a powerful role at a rising tech company. After 20 years in advertising and years climbing the ranks in tech, she'd built a reputation as a self-made professional who had been working since she was just 15. But all of that vanished almost overnight. She resigned from Astronomer after only 7 months on the job, following Andy Byron's exit. According to those close to her, the hardest part wasn't walking away from the title, it was watching her entire career, built over decades, reduced to a single viral moment. For someone known as a hard worker and respected leader, being cast as a scandal figure was devastating. Today's sources say she barely leaves her house. Instead, she's focused on shielding her kids from the fallout and slowly rebuilding a sense of normalcy. The woman once praised for her leadership and drive now finds herself prioritizing survival and privacy over everything else. But this wasn't just about one person's career imploding. It became a case study in how quickly the internet can destroy reputations. When you step back, the story of Kristin Cabot and Andy Byron isn't just about two executives caught on camera. It's about how unforgiving the digital world has become. A hug at a concert, awkward but hardly criminal, snowballed into job losses, family turmoil, and online harassment that reached terrifying levels. It shows how, in today's culture, a single viral clip can erase decades of hard work in an instant. The bigger question is whether the punishment fit the crime. Should a moment of poor judgment cost people their livelihoods? Or is this proof that the internet thrives on outrage, feeding off personal missteps until there's nothing left to tear down? Their story has now become a cautionary tale, a reminder that in the age of smartphones and social media, privacy can vanish in seconds and reputations can be destroyed before the truth even has a chance to catch up. At the end of the day, the Kristin Cabot and Andy Byron scandal is less about one moment in a crowded concert and more about the culture we've built around instant judgment. Their downfall wasn't just about personal choices. It was about how fast the internet can twist, amplify, and destroy. Maybe tomorrow it'll be another executive, another celebrity, or even someone completely ordinary who finds themselves under the same spotlight. What this story proves is that in 2025, reputation isn't managed in boardrooms or press releases anymore. It lives and dies online. So the real question is, did we just watch justice, or did we witness a modern-day digital witch hunt?